you're joining from today, but I am hoping that in this studio, this virtual studio, or as I prefer to call it, a virtual fireside, you are going to learn from people who have crossed some difficult bridges. They have crossed some bridges that are super shaky that most of us cannot even cross. Today, I want us to talk about how to demystify mental health, mental health illnesses within our community, particularly the community of immigrants, people who are coming to America from all parts of the world, but they're still connected to where they come from. If you're joining for the first time, my name is Gideon Fumukwai. Call myself the Story Warrior, a product of Africa, produced in Asia, packaged in America, and distributed around the world. And today I have the singular pleasure of inviting Madame Glenda Lezo and Mr. Ashik Kakao to join us. One of them, as you get to know, is in the central part of America. One of them is in the northeastern corner. But let's start with Glenda. They say ladies go first, right? Glenda, tell us where you're joining from and tell us a little bit about your name. Your name is very unique.
Yeah, so first of all, can I say I love that you have a French background because you said my name so perfectly.
Of course.
Usually I just say Glenda Lizzo because it is hard for people to say, but you said Lizzo, that was like perfect. I just want to say thank you. And this is dope.
Thank you. Thank
But
you.
I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm tuning in from Baltimore, Maryland.
Amazing. Amazing. How's the weather in Maryland today? I hope not too soggy.
It's been getting better. It's definitely been less humid, which I'm like, yeah, thank you. My parents may be from Haiti, but I can't do too much of the heat. So
You're lucky. Stay there for now.
yeah.
I worked out of Maryland for 2 years. I lived there, but I did not work there. I
Okay.
stayed
Okay.
there just because I could hop onto a flight from Baltimore BWI to
Hmm.
all parts of the East Coast for 2 years. If you ask me driving Maryland without a GPS, I can't do it. But I
Okay.
live there. I fly out every Sunday. I come back in every Friday for two
Oh,
years until the pandemic came and ripped everything out of my hand.
oh no.
But that's a question. That's a story for another day. Let's go to Ashik. Ashik, please tell us where you're joining from. I cannot wait to
So,
learn from you, sir.
so, so, Dr. Gideon, thank you for putting this together. This is a great platform. I'm so excited about our conversation. And Glenda, it's a pleasure to meet you and learn more about
Likewise.
you and all you do. So my name is Ashik Kaku. You got the first name right, Dr. Gideon. We might want to edit the last name a little bit, but that's okay. I was born in Uganda and I grew up in the Bronx, New York. I currently live in Dallas, Texas. I'm still a New Yorker, so I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I lived in New York for 42 years, lived in Florida in the military for two, and moved down here 10 years ago. So that's my deal. And I'm very excited
Wow.
about our
Wow.
conversation today.
First, I love the fact that our umbrella is a very broad one. It covers so many parts of human existence. There's New
Yeah.
York, there's Baltimore, there's Texas. So hopefully we see the world through the lens that can help other people see it, especially because we're talking about mental health issues and challenges in our community. And by community, I mean the community of humans. Oh, okay, so the community at large. I noticed that within the immigrant community, which is a small fragment of the larger community, people are very shy to talk about mental health issues. Why do you think that is so, Ashik?
So I'll tell you firsthand. My dad took me to my mental health psychiatric office at age 17 or 18 back then, and he wrote a check for the services, and we never talked about it. And it was
Mhm.
just, make sure this is taken care of. And it was very peculiar for me because nobody knew, or I didn't get the road book on how to be a psychiatric patient. I didn't know what the rules were. And I think we are still living in that jet, especially for my Indian culture, my Indian community. It's a question of it's what stays behind the closed doors stays behind the closed doors, and
Mm.
we have to go in and break those doors down because there are people, and I get emotional about this, so we might have to do some more editing.
No,
There
go
are
ahead.
people who are breaking down, who are dying in these behind the scene door things, and we have to get past it. Down in
Mm.
Plano, we had a family whose son took his life after dinner and went and said goodnight to his parents and went upstairs and took his life. And
Mhm.
how do you cope with that? I mean, You know, no judgment on anybody. We are still
Mm.
learning this game, but the challenge for us as survivors is to educate and treat it and get it out of the loser lane so we can
Yes.
definitely go into the world of healthcare and health
Yes.
community and make
Yes.
mental health community part of the discussion.
Thank you so much. Thank you. How about you, Glenda? What has been your experience with respect to people not just comfortable about talking about this?
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to answer that in two part. The first part, I'm going to talk a little bit more broad. From my experience, I think one of the reasons why there's this fear or let's hide behind closed doors is because there was a period of time where certain generations weren't talking about mental health. Like my parents' generation, for example, my parents are from Haiti, proud Haitian over here. I gotta, Haitianula, but gotta squeeze
Good,
that
good,
in.
good, good. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You
Look
got
up.
to put it out.
Um, I don't know about now in Haiti, but these were not conversations that were happening in Haiti. Like they're not used to conversations like this, even though there were folks that were dealing with mental health challenges, but it wasn't brought up. It wasn't a conversation. And if it was brought up, it was just like, hush, hush, oh, you're fine. Just drink some tea. Like, what is the problem? Just have a seat. So I think what's happening now is my parents' generation, for example, they have children like us where we are more open. Even my generation, we still need help with being able to own it, but we are being more open and saying, hey, I'm feeling a depressed symptom. Hey, I'm feeling some anxiety. Hey, I need therapy. And this is new for them because it's
Mm,
like therapy. Like I
therapy.
never had to go to therapy. I didn't know anyone that went to therapy. Like
Yes,
that's just not
yes.
what we do. And I think there's just a lot of stigma and
Mm,
stereotypes around like what is it that folks of immigrant communities do? Like what is part of our culture
mm-hmm,
and what is not? And there's
mm,
been this perception that if you're whether it's an immigrant population or like I said, for my Haitian community, it's like we don't do that in our culture. We don't go to
mm.
therapy. It's not what we
Yes,
do. It's just
yes,
this American thing. And so I think that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of issues within the immigrant population. Because
yes.
one thing I've noticed in my work is if you keep bottling up the symptoms that are there and pretending they're not there,
Mm.
they're going to, unfortunately, they're going to blow up.
Yes, ma'am.
It may not
Yes.
look like a mental breakdown. It can even be health issues. It can show up in so many ways, but it is
Yes.
going to explode at some point. So
Yes.
it's not that folks in the immigrant communities are not having symptoms. It's not that my parents' generation, for example, do not have symptoms. It's just more so it manifests in a different way. And so therefore they're like, oh, we never had these problems. No, y'all
Mm.
did. It just looks a little differently. It wasn't owned. So yeah, I said I was going to do a two part, but I think I'm going to stop there. I think that
Okay, appreciate that. Appreciate it. And in the meantime, this denialism doesn't solve the problem. I'm sure we agree on that. Denying that something does not exist doesn't
Mhm.
make it go away. It cannot go away. But here's one little factoid that I really feel compelled to share with both of you. A while back, I was in graduate school, and the professor came to class and said to us, there are a number of senses. You have your sight, your hearing, your taste. He said, which one would you want to go away first? If you had to lose one, which one? Everybody would let one go away. And then the next one, maybe it's hearing, maybe it's taste, maybe it's sight. Sight was one of the last to go. But do you know, out of the whole class, the last thing that we held on to, we were holding on to our ability to think soundly for ourselves. And he said, no wonder you guys are here for a terminal degree. So you really hold on to this dearly. But it's not only for people who are looking for terminal degrees. We all want to feel sound, be able to make good decisions so that we can have good economic contributions and be able to take care of ourselves. Have you come across anyone who has struggled economically because of the fact that their thinking, their mental health was taking a heavy toll on them? Have you come across anyone like that? Because we want to be able to, you don't have to call it in, but maybe paint a little picture because this is real. And I want our story warriors and families to understand that this stuff is real and we cannot forget it. We cannot live in denial.
I mean, 100%. And I'll just speak from personal experience. I don't even need to talk about anyone else specifically, but So a little bit about my story. I've had multiple psychotic breakdowns. I've been hospitalized in the psychiatric unit multiple times. The first time it happened was 2011. And you mentioned denialism before. I was in denial for a good 7+ years. I was
Mm,
having some symptoms, but it was, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong.
mm,
It was until I had this full blown psychotic breakdown. I'm experiencing delusions and paranoid thoughts and hallucinations
mm,
and had to be hospitalized where it's like, oh, I need to take care of this thing. I
mm,
need help. That was when I finally owned it. And so I say that to say that every single hospitalization that I've had, every single major intense mental health episode or breakdown that I've had, I can't work.
mm,
Can't work. I have to stop working. Like I think for the 3 breakdowns that I've had, for every single one, I had to leave the job ASAP. Whatever job I was
mm,
at, I had to leave ASAP because I had to recover. I
mm.
literally couldn't even fathom the thought of even going back to
To
work.
work.
I
Yeah.
had to heal. And
Yeah.
thankfully I had my parents and I was able to stay with my parents. I didn't have to worry about shelter and food.
Mm,
But it can take me anywhere from 6 months to a year to finally feel well enough to be like, you know what? I think I could start applying for jobs again. I think I could go back in the
wow.
workforce. So I've experienced it myself where
Mm,
I am not able to care for myself, especially financially or economically, if I'm
mhm.
not doing well mentally. So whenever
That.
I'm dealing with something intense mentally, even if it's something like now I'm more aware of what's going on. So even if I see something coming, which happened to me a couple around April, where I was a couple of steps away from a breakdown, but because I'm doing the work, I recognized it. And then I
Mm,
pause. I'm like, you got to just not work collectively,
wow. Wow.
take
So
off the
this
whole,
is
because I knew what I had to do, and I knew the risk of if I'm going into work, this could literally lead into something more intense.
this is real. This is so real. This is so real. And what I say is kudos to you, kudos to Ashek, because you've still managed to hold very, very important jobs and be high functioning and do all these amazing things. Ashek, how did you cope? Eh, And given that sometimes you were dealing with it, maybe the whole family did not fully understand what you're going through. How do you still manage to hold yourself together
Yeah.
and be a global leader in finance, managing multi-million dollar projects and programs?
Look, I mean, the reality is I came out of my shell in 2022, 21 when I
Mm,
did a podcast and just transparently told everything about my story.
mm,
Up to that point, I had a very close boss who knew something was going on, and he
mm,
just protected me through my role. And he was very, very. And I go back to him. I told him point blank. I said, "Tex, you have really helped me through this journey." But I will say one more thing about. So the reason I've had these roles is just good fortune. I'm a man of Christian faith. I think God's put me in this place for a reason, and that's exactly what I've been delivering. I will say one more thing about the what Glenda. I could spitball the exact same thing Glenda said about my history
mm,
about job loss and job
mm,
job regainment. But there is one thing that we have not uncovered, which is how expensive from a medical health and from a health cost of people calling out sick on their day jobs, how much of that is mental health related? And I don't
yes.
think we have a good barometer of that. I think it's huge. I think people call in with a stomach bug or I'm under the weather. They're very nondescript about it. But
Mm,
if we had to categorize, is this a mental
mm,
health issue? We would see how much this opportunity for us to change the dialogue, the narrative, how
mhm,
much it's costing business today. It's unquantifiable, and I think
mm.
we have to treat it as an opportunity because it's no longer a mental health disorder or mental health illness. It's an opportunity for us to get better and to be in the front of the line from that expression. So
Yes. Wow. That is very, very instructive because if we're not front of the line, we're back of the line. If we're not sitting openly and able to have a conversation with family, then we're still locked behind that door. We're living in that cloud of darkness. And that darkness, bad things can happen. Personal
mhm.
experience. A good friend, high functioning, great guy, was director for Africa in finance in a number of countries. Returned home, had some challenges at work, and he just kept to himself because of this thing that maybe young boys grow up in Africa thinking, oh, you can't ask for help if you have having a mental issue. And he kept it himself all along. He's just doing searches online. Did not want to talk about it. Did not completely reveal it to his family or to anyone. And long story short, at some point, he cannot handle it anymore. He took his life. And that is when it really dawned on me that this is something so real, so real that we cannot ignore anymore. And I know that there are many layers, but I've also met people that say, okay, um, if I can handle it, so can you. But you can never equate one person's experience to another person. Can you talk about the fact that there's a lot of ignorance out there? People don't understand that what you're going through, your pain in your shoe is different from another person's. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because some people are insensitive, or they think that just because they could overcome a headache, everyone else should overcome a headache. We don't know how much boiling and how much pain is going through your body. Ashik, you wanna say something
Yeah, I
on
mean,
that?
you get the analogy of people in the sports world saying just put a little dirt on it and get back on the field. And the reality is we have to. A lot of times people don't want to talk about the mental health opportunity because they don't want to address it. But
Mm,
companies more and more now are getting more flexible with that and more accessible to that, and we just have
yes,
to keep pushing that envelope. We have to allow
yes,
people to talk about their mental health. Hey, I need a break from today. I'm overwhelmed by all the conversations going on. I'm the first one to tell you. I went to a meeting the other day with 12 women and me for a parent meeting. And I first said, was this just supposed to be for moms? And and then I said, I'm overwhelmed by this. And I was very transparent about it.
mm-hmm.
And I said it with sincerity, but we have to be able to tell ourselves, hey, I need to be in a comfortable work environment. I need to be able to
Mm-hmm.
talk about where I need some break and how I have to manage my work life balance. Because for us that are dealing with any illness, it's life or death. It is
Yes,
it, it is a function of life or death, and we have to
yes,
take it seriously. And when we
yes,
receive that information from coworkers, we have to appreciate it and embrace it with empathy and comfort. I had a
yes.
gentleman. I go to Bible study. I had a gentleman who worked 26 years for a large company, and after talking with it for 5 years, and I would always talk about my mental health, he went to his company and declared that he had a challenge, and
Mm,
it's just that's how we will propagate this ability to
thank
have
you.
these conversations, and that opened up doors for him with his coworkers about
Mm-hmm.
how they could come to him with these types of discussions.
Yes,
It's going to be fine. We will all be fine if we address it. It's just we have to start addressing it and continue to
yes.
do so.
Okay, that is powerful. So employers are now more willing to accommodate, to understand, but we have to speak up first. That's what I'm hearing you say. Okay, Glenda, do you have anything to add to that? Because this
Yeah,
is really
I
important because people are dealing with this. They think that if they mention it, maybe the employer is going to kick them out or have some impact on their job that they don't know. So maybe please add some.
yeah, I want to add to that because that's such a good point. But unfortunately, a lot of these employers have a lot of work to do. Like, yes, part of it is the speaking up part, but part of it is you can speak up and the company can still not accommodate or don't know how to deal with
Mm,
it. For example, and this happened pretty recently, I was working for a mental health company. Mental health company. We
mhm,
literally have clients who come to us and they're having mental health challenges. So
mhm,
when I told you the example earlier where I said there was a moment in April where I was like, okay, I need to just pause everything for a second, pause for a week.
mhm,
I messaged my supervisor and I'm like, hey, I need to de-escalate my mental health right now. And
mhm,
I need to just take off this whole week.
mhm.
And on top of that, it's not even like I had sick time or anything. This was leave without pay. It's not even like you have to pay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just like, I can't come in this week. I have to take care of this mental health issue before it gets worse. The
Mhm.
response I got was, oh, Glenda, I'm so proud of you for being able to accommodate yourself and recognize this. But just so you know, once you put your shifts up, if someone does not pick up your shift, I'm going to have to document it.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm just like, and in that moment, I didn't even say anything to them. I didn't even say anything. I was just like, I put the shifts up and I left let alone. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, honestly, at this point, I don't care because if I do come to work, I'm either way, I'm not going to be able to work. I'm going to end up
Yes.
hospitalized. It's going to end up worse. But when I experienced that, it was just so frustrating because it's like, this is a mental health company. They know what it means when your mental health escalates. They know
Hmm.
what that means. And I'm
Hmm.
letting you know with full transparency, this is what's happening. And the response was like, oh, yeah, good. But oh, yeah, we're going to have to document it. And of course, there was like one or two shifts that someone did not pick up and it was
Hmm.
documented. Again, in my mind, I'm like, look, I come first. Like, do
Of
whatever you
course.
have to do.
Of course.
But
Especially you've gone through different things, you know?
exactly. I know what can happen to my mental health if I don't take this time off. But it's frustrating because you would think a mental health company like this would just
Should know
be the
better.
most empathetic. Like, please take all the time off you need. Please take care of yourself. Let us know how you,
Yes.
and that's it. But now you're like talking about documenting and writing me up if someone doesn't take my shift and I'm telling you what's going on. So a lot of these companies, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Mm.
A lot. I'm glad that there are some companies that are like, okay, great, I support you, but I don't think that's the majority though. Unfortunately.
Okay. So I think in this case, a lot of companies, and I know some of the executives watch this program, they're following. It is time to recognize that just because you see someone on the surface, everything looks good, doesn't mean everything is good. And you have to be concerned and not patronizing because what they were saying to you essentially was patronizing. Okay, wait, let's shift from companies a little bit to families because families are the ones that live every single day with you. What are some of the triggers that family members can notice? Because sometimes we are the masters of our bodies, but sometimes our environment, our spouses, our children, our friends, they may also notice certain things that they can say, hey, sister, hey, brother, it's time for you to go into de-escalation. Otherwise, if you press too hard, you might snap in a way that would not be healthy for you or for any one of us. What are some of the triggers that you've encountered or you've read about or talked about?
I can start. Thankfully, thankfully for me, I come from a Haitian family that's actually super, super supportive. And whenever I talk to other Haitians about it, they're like, what? What do you mean? But I talk about it because I want to show other Haitians, especially, like, yes, it is possible for you to be a Haitian parent, auntie, uncle, sibling, and
Mhm.
and show up for your child,
Yes.
sibling, etc. And
Yes.
so I've been fortunate enough where whenever I'm hospitalized, I'm getting visits daily. I mean, my
Mm.
dad was retired. He came to visit me twice a day. My
Mm.
mom after work would come. My dad would bring food. My sister would travel sometimes hours because she's traveling and there's traffic. She's like, nope, gotta come visit you. So I definitely, yeah, I know.
I wanna blast this up for all the good dads out there, all the good moms, good
Please,
sisters who
please
care
do. 'Cause,
enough to
oh,
defy culture.
oh my God.
Yes, we
Yes,
have to be caring.
yes,
Compassion doesn't cost a thing, but it can
literally.
actually give a transformational recovery to you. Because
Yes.
if you're alone, you're feeling squeezed, you're feeling like, oh my God. But if you have family that's coming to care,
Yep.
just that presence can transform everything. So
Literally.
that's why I had to pick up my vuvuzela. Please, sorry for interrupting.
No, please, no, that's good because I agree. It's like I'm even getting chills thinking about it. It's just sometimes I don't even have the words to describe the appreciation for my Haitian family, especially, right? Like it's like for them being open
Mm.
and like my sister is such an amazing support. And then even like uncles will come visit me, or like the uncle that's further away is calling me, hey, just checking in. No, get better, okay? You coming to see me. Like and I'm just so supported and loved around this bipolar diagnosis and around these hospitalizations. And I don't know where I would be if I didn't have that. And with my
Mm.
parents, they never rushed me through the recovery. Like I've heard
Mm.
some experiences with some people where it's like, all right, it's been a month, time to go back to work. My parents, not once are they like, so Glenda, you don't think you're better enough? Not once. It's me that's like bringing it up. And sometimes my mom's
Wow.
like, Glenda,
Wow.
just wait a little bit, wait
Wow.
in 6 weeks. So I have a very, very supportive immigrant family, and they each show up in their own way. Each family member
Mm.
shows up in their own way. What I always say is all support matters. All support. There's no such thing as like, oh, I only do that. No, all support matters. Like my dad, for example, for him, it's showing up and visiting and driving me to appointments when I can't bring myself,
Mm,
especially
mm,
after hospitalization. For my
mhm,
mom, she is the one that could go to and actually talk specific details. For my
mm,
sister, I know I could call her, text her. I could text her 3 paragraphs. This would this blah, 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 blah.
mm.
And she just knows what to say in a text, right? So it's like all the support matters that I get, even like cousins and close friends. And I think it's important for me to share this because I want folks to see an example. Like, yes, it's possible for a Haitian family to
Yes,
show up for mental health. It's possible for a Black family to show up for
yes,
mental health because
yes,
there's that stereotype that it's like, that's like a white people problem or
yes,
Black families not. Girl, you're
yes.
fine. Go. You're a kid. I don't understand why you have a depressive state. And so I share this so others can either get empowered to, like, my child did come to me the other day and I dismissed them. Let me approach, like, it is okay for me to support
Thank
that
you,
in the best way
thank
that,
you,
like, that
thank
person
you.
can.
That's really, really kudos to your family.
Thank you.
And to Ashik also, have you experienced that? But more so, what are some of the triggers that family can look out for so that they can say, okay, you know what? It's time for de-escalation and not for you to keep pushing forward
Yeah.
because you are a high
I mean,
achiever.
yeah, I mean, it's great that you bring this question up, and I'll tell you the challenge, especially as a father of a family with little kiddos in my nuclear family, we had to insulate them from what was going on when they were younger. But I'll tell you,
Mhm.
the day before I went to that first podcast in May of 2022, I went to my son and I said, and he was 15 at the time. I said, I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to tell him about my mental health. What do you think? And he's got 3 computers doing his homework. Dad, you're saving lives. Now leave me alone. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he says. That you are saving lives,
That's
and and without a doubt, he's my check-in buddy. He has got a maturity, and my wife is there in some regard as well. My other boys are. This is not to discount any one person. This is for
Mhm,
me
mhm.
to have a team to
Wow.
go to when I am challenged. And my Bible study brothers, without a doubt, I can go there and say, guys, I got to unload tonight, and they know exactly what's coming, and they have
Mm,
the wherewithal and the compassion and the empathy. So I say to anybody out there, create your team. It could be anybody across your universe, but
mhm,
know that they are responsible when you are having this day to take up the call and prepare them.
mm,
Do a practice, work
mm.
them through it, because that's how, as self advocates in this space, you will become
Wow.
better armed with your recovery. And it's not like it
Wow.
doesn't happen. It happened in April, and I suddenly lost a role, and it wasn't anything I was doing. It was just happenstance. And the first person I went to was my Bible study brother, and he said, "I've got 45 minutes for you." I said, "That's all I need," and we chatted it out, and that
Mm,
was recovery, and it's in real
wow.
time, and it's not a drill, but you have to,
Mm,
as people in this community, you have to create your action plan for recovery. It's a wellness recovery
mm.
action plan. We all should have one. And with
Yes.
people, it's assigning them roles, and they know when you pick
Mm.
up the phone or text them that where you're at. And
Yep.
it's incredible how that payback is so automatic, and how these people have wanted to help.
Fantastic.
Can I just add? Can I just add
Please go,
because
go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
we're both talking about this amazing and beautiful and warm support system that we have, right? We're both saying like we have family, but then we have friends, and then we have this group and that group.
And it
And
calls it
well,
team, which is really beautiful because a
yeah,
team wants to make sure that no one is left behind. And that team
exactly.
rallies around you. It doesn't always have to be a family member. From what
Correct.
Ashik is saying, sometimes it could
Correct.
be his Bible study group member.
Exactly.
That's beautiful, and it's important that we recognize that. Otherwise, we may lose sight of that. It cannot always be family.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
exactly. And I want to just drive this point. It's not a coincidence that both of us are here talking about mental health challenges and talking about the work we do, whether it's
Yes.
mental health related or finance related or the success that we've had. And then we
Mhm.
happen to have that similar
Yes.
aspect of there's this team, there's a support system. That's not a coincidence. It's
It's
not,
not a
this is
coincidence.
not just like, oh, lucky, lucky us. No, we are able to thrive because of that support system, that team. We're able to thrive because we allow them to enter as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like what you're saying, Gideon is perfect example. Sometimes it's not family. In a perfect world, it would be family. We all want our mom, our dad, our sister, our
Yeah.
sibling to like
Yeah.
love and support us the way we need to.
Mhm.
But when you're able to feel that pain that you don't have that from family, try at least your best to heal from it, but then recognize I can get it from somewhere else. You're
Yes.
still gonna have a team around you. And
Yes.
that's so integral. I honestly, that's integral for every human being, but especially when we're talking about mental health, it's
Yes.
integral. And you don't know where it's going to come from. Because when I talk
Yes.
about my sister,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I talk about my sister, when people don't know my sister or don't know like much about my family, they're like, oh, is that your older sister? No, that's actually my younger sister. She's 4.5 years younger than me. When
Mm-hmm.
I first had that first mental breakdown, she was in high school, but yet she still was able to show up for me and support me. So you
Mm.
don't know where's it come from. Like how you're talking about your son. Your son is 15. Like someone wouldn't really think like, oh, you could get support from a 15. Yes, like it can come in so many different forms. And I think that's
Yes.
something that people need to be open to. Like you don't know who it's going to be. It could be the most
Yes.
random person where you're like, what? Am I really
Yes.
getting support from you?
Yes. Wow.
One
And
thing, one
that's,
thing I want to add before you go to the next question, if I don't mind. Sorry, Dr.
please,
Gideon.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's understand for those who are listening today who are at the beginning of this journey that it's not going to happen overnight. It's there
Mm.
are dark days and there are days where you have to go to battle and find your rhythm and fail forward and learn from
Mm.
it and just realize that it's not going to be perfect. Each of my family members, my wife and my three boys, play a different role in my mental health recovery.
Mm.
But also you have to understand that my siblings, we have a relationship and they've been impacted by the collateral damage of my mental health. They have been
Mm.
part of this through the ebbs and flows, and we have to work on how to restore those relationships, and we're working on that very, very hard. My
Mhm.
point is, don't take it from this messaging that it's going to happen overnight. It takes
Okay.
work, and you have
Mm.
to invest in your work. And I tell myself two things every day. Or number one, who am I going to connect with today that I can go serve? And number
Mm.
two, Ashik, don't ever give up on yourself. And I tell people who will listen, don't ever give up on yourself, because you know what? If today's a day that's challenging, just get through it. Go,
Mhm.
and tomorrow will be better. And just get through it. But don't ever give up on yourself, because you're too well invested in this and you have too much to offer to the
Mm.
world. And just keep plugging away.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I want to like highlight with a yellow highlighter on that last part. We were talking about this before we started recording, that part about not giving up on yourself.
Yep.
You have to have the will within you. Even if it's not 100%, it may not be like, yes, there has to come from you. You can't just lay on the support system. Like I like to think about it as a house. Like my support system, some of it, sometimes it's the foundation. Sometimes when I can't hold up my own foundation, they're helping to hold up the foundation for me. But that's too heavy. They can't do that all the time. At some point, I'm doing the work and they're still like, okay, we're still here as a foundation. We're still here as like this brick here. But
Mm.
there has to be an aspect of you having that will. Even if there's
Yes.
doubt, that's fine, but it has to come from within you first, because you could have the
Mm.
best family in the whole world. You can have the best wife, partner, whatever, the
But
best
still.
clinician.
Mm.
It won't matter if it's not within you. You're not thinking like, I'm ready
Mm.
for this. It's challenging, it's tricky. I don't know what tomorrow's gonna be, but I'm deciding. I'm choosing
Wow.
me. You have
Wow.
to do that first before anything.
That is so instructive. That is so incisive. I just love what I'm hearing because it also tells me something that I think Ashik mentioned briefly. You have to invest in those relationships. And both of you are people of service. You're always meeting people where they are and trying to serve them and trying to help them. In other words, you cannot run out of the resources. You cannot run out of people that can help you. Because the mistake we make is we start to feel like, OMG, I am all by myself. I am lost. No one is going to help me. When that happens, that's when you cave in. But when you're always out there serving other people, helping other people, you know there's someone on your phone that you can call without hesitation. Give a quick personal anecdote. Last weekend, I just came back from a Christian men's retreat. The reason I went on that retreat was after that brother, that extended friend took his life during the pandemic. It allowed me to realize, dude, you think you're strong, you're not very strong. You're not strong as you think that you are. And then two other brothers, I will meet with them every Saturday and we would just unload on each other.
Yeah.
We just unload. And each one of us is going up and down and up. And we still consider ourselves like we've not had any terrible episode, but we've had some minor episodes here and there. So people are out there, they're wondering, oh my God, I need help. But I also want to say what both of you are saying is invest in those relationships so that when you need help, that help will show up. That's one part. When you need help, the help will show up because you've always been a good person. You're always out there serving. But what about some community resources that people can also access? Do you know some groups, whether it's associations, whether it's professional societies, that those who are beginning to see, I don't feel like I got enough help within my family, I can look outside. Do you know any groups that you think you can talk about that someone can benefit from? I think we can talk about those resources here.
Yeah, for me, I've become part of this National Association of Mental Illness. It's www.nami.org, and maybe you could share this link with the community as part of
Okay,
the
National
post-production.
Association of
National Association of Mental Illness, and it's a nationwide group, and there's support in every. I've got groups tapped into Florida. I've got one in Seattle, and I have access to these Zoom calls to just when I need that. But also, you just go to their website and they have a menu of resources available depending on where you're at, and you can do it you can do it for yourself. Your family members could do it, and just find the resources. There's so much out there, and they've done a really good job in harvesting all these resources that are available across the country. That it works. And these support groups offer anything from counseling services to medical services to group community services to help with your kiddos. It's really the place that I endorse. I've been part of their peer support group. This worked really intensely during COVID because it was a national platform, and we could do it on Zoom calls. And I just check in every so often, but I would say that they will always allow me to go to their website and refer people to their different services there without a doubt.
Yeah, NAMI. So they're also, some people call them NAMI. They are a great resource. So I definitely second that. For me, I'll give some therapy resources. I don't like to give people too much because there is a lot out there. There definitely, which is a good thing in some ways. There's options, but I don't want to give people like a whole list. But the first place that I tell people to go for therapy, Psychology Today. So simple, psychologytoday.com. What I love about the platform is you can go ahead and say, I'm in this state, which parentheses for those who don't know, you kind of can't just get any therapist from anywhere. They have to be certified in the state. I'm talking for the US. I don't know about international, but for the United States, they have to be certified in the state that you reside in, even if it's virtual, even if they're seeing you virtual. So what I like about Psychology Today, you can put, I'm in this state. You can put, I prefer a female. I prefer, like, you can go in and put your preferences. You can go in and say, sometimes you can even put, I'm looking for help with bipolar. You can literally narrow it down. And I love that you can use all these search filters. So that's psychologytoday.com. Another great resource for some Black folks is Therapy for Black Girls. They're another one where they show Black therapists. And even though it's Therapy for Black Girls, like, men can still use the directory, but that's just how they started out their brand. And so I think those are two great resources to start. And I'm going to say a third one. Folks, use Google, y'all. Use Google. Like, literally just type into Google. If it's free resources or free therapy, free group therapy for depression, put your zip code. Free group therapy for New York City. Google.
Okay.
Sure, it's valid.
Is there no? Let me push back on this a little bit. Is there no danger that you might stumble on the wrong Google link? Is there some way that you can at least do a little bit of filtering to choose which is more authentic?
I don't know about filtering, but of course, like, do your due diligence. Like, if you see something pop up, free therapy, Is there address? Is there a number you can call? Can you ask more information? Can you tell me more about the organization? Can you give me your name? Like there's ways to vet organizations, but yes, definitely please do your due diligence. I'm not responsible. You're like, Glenda told me to Google, but yeah, just, and then also looking at certain organizations, like, is it registered? Is it, sometimes if it's a specific therapist that's hosting the free group therapy, if you Google the therapist's name, you'll see things pop up. You'll see maybe they're already on Psychology Today for something else. Like, still do your research, but yeah, like use Google to your advantage. Just put your zip code or city and state. Therapy, boom, boom, city and state. Free, like you could put whatever it is you're looking for that you feel like you need. Maybe it's group therapy for men. Like there's a lot of beautiful resources out there. So like don't be afraid to Google, y'all. It's there.
Yes. I can. Okay, go ahead, Ashik.
Just to add a couple more resources. Go to if you're a person in the faith space, go to your church, go to your synagogue, go to the mosque. They have these resources available because their client base are asking for that. Also, as you saw through the Olympics, and then even Tom Brady's doing some better health work with what he did in terms of therapy. Simone Biles is a self-proclaimed recoverer.
That's right.
And the companies that they're associating with are reputable, and they just tap into what they're promoting. I mean, use those resources for those companies to find your space. Just navigate through, and you'll find your rhythm of what you want, what you female, male, older, younger, whatever you like. It's just like, it's like getting advice on a good restaurant. Make sure you do the due diligence and make sure you do that it's comfortable for you, and then go for it and stay proactive. Sometimes the first therapist is not the right one. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You can advocate for yourself. Hey, I didn't like how that. Can you give me some referrals? No one's gonna be embarrassed or be upset if you don't like their work. Go to somebody else, and they'll be glad to provide you with other resources.
And I want to add a bonus because I think some people don't realize this.
Yes, we need bonus. We need a little bonus here because you never know which resource can help someone. Go for it, Glenda.
Yeah. So a lot of insurances cover therapy and psychiatry. Now, I know there's some that may not or may have like a high deductible or a high cover, but don't just completely be like, oh, I don't have the money, and you have medical insurance. See if your medical insurance covers it, because a lot of them do. And also for folks who may be like in between work, or maybe your job doesn't offer insurance, call. If you get on Medicaid does cover, for the most part, therapy and psychiatry. So I think sometimes people feel like, oh, I have to do this out of pocket. You do not have to do it. Okay. There are ways around it. And if you need to get on Medicaid to go to therapy, do that. Like,
the last build on that. Sorry, Glenn, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
there are resources at companies that have insurance plans and medical insurance, have employee assistance programs, EAP. And that's where I've used it personally, where I moved to Texas and I needed a new therapist, and I got 5 visits for free for any number of therapists until I found the right space. And so go after your HR department, go after the churches, go to these resources that are part of your community, and they are tapped into this world more so than you'd think. Just ask around and ask people in your community. Maybe you have a therapist that you work with that you recommend. It's just to be out there and know that you're in the industry to get that help. And now you'll see how massive this industry is for that help.
For sure. And just to like give hope to everyone, and some people may have trouble conceptualizing what I'm about to say, and this is just general. I guarantee you, the moment you start telling yourself and start owning, I know I want to get help mentally, not sure how it's going to look. You're talking to your sister. I don't know, girl, what to do. I don't know how to get it. I guarantee you it's going to come towards you if you allow yourself to keep your eyes open and keep open. Don't go ahead and be like, but how? That's not the point. Like, if you trust in the process, you'll be surprised. You'll be on a bus, and then the person next to you says, oh, I like your hair. And next thing you know, you start talking about therapy. And they're like, oh, you got to check out this place. They have great things. You just never know. So As much as this
Commitment.
can be overwhelming of a process, I get that. As much as you may not have that person, a close
Yes.
friend or sibling that knows exactly like where you can go,
Yeah.
if you're really actively trying to look for it and you
You'll
just keep
find it.
just talking about it and just saying it and feeling it like, no, I do want to get the help. I just don't know how yet. I don't know where I'm going to get it. It's going to come. You're going
It's
to be
gonna
on
come.
Instagram. There's going to be an Instagram ad. Like literally, it's going to be an Instagram ad. And you're like, oh, this place seems great. So just be open to like
Okay.
where it comes from. I know it
Very
can be
interesting.
overwhelming and frustrating, but if you're again, remember it's coming from inside. If inside you're
Yes.
like, nope, I want this for myself, it's gonna come. It's
It's
gonna
gonna
come.
come. Key is the commitment
Hmm.
and the openness and knowing that it's going to be resolved.
Hmm.
I was actually going to have a sister who is a psychiatrist join us today. She's a practicing psychiatrist. She came in from Africa, super young. She finished medical school there, then finished here again, went to medical school here, did residency, and her program did not allow. But I love the fact that we're looking at it from the side of the patient or somebody that's gone through that. And our perspectives is very important because most people are like us. Not many people are like on the other side. But help me demystify therapy because people have often associated therapy with like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on there. Can you help shine the light a little bit in this dark space? Because some people when they hear therapy, they start to freak out. And I don't think that therapy is bad because we all already undergo many different types of therapies. It's just that when it comes to mental processes and the procedures may be a little bit different. What has been your experience about therapy? Can you demystify that a little bit? And actually, you can also put a little spot on the fact that, hey, there's nothing so manly more than recognizing that you don't have all the answers. You can actually let some other person lead you into that space and guide you along.
So let me speak to that because that's a real important point. What I'm learning about and what I'm working with my groups is men are facing an epidemic of loneliness, and we are facing that because we shoulder all these burdens upon ourselves. The kids go away and they call mama, oh, is dad there? Can you put him on the phone? And I'm generalizing, of course, but the point is we don't have to have an ego for this, people. We have to have compassion for our fellow brothers and sisters who come to us asking for help. This is not a one man. This is a zone defense. This is a lead by example. All these little cliches I'm going to send to you. It's just it
Yep, yep.
takes a village. Make it use your resources. I go to a Starbucks. My kids don't ever come with me. They're like, take the 20 minutes. You're going to talk to everybody in Starbucks and just get us the coffees when it's done. And in 5 minutes, I'm telling people about my mental health experience. And without a doubt, people will say, oh, I know this person or had this experience. People want to talk about it. We just have to give them the opening to talk
Permission.
about it. And from
Yes.
that, like Glenda said, you'll get recommendations because people also want to help you all. And so if you hear where you can help, they're going to go and give you that, go get this therapist, great work, or just keep talking about it. And don't, and men, take your egos and check them at the door. We don't have time for egos. We're trying to be better people, and we're trying to be better husbands and fathers and brothers.
Mhm.
Just make it work and go to work.
Yes. And Glenda, have you ever been in a situation whereby any therapy was like, oh my God, this was not cool. This was not cool. Because people think that maybe there's, I don't know why they're so afraid and they taboo it and they paint it black, they paint it all colors. Have you ever come out of any therapy you're feeling like, oh, I gotten worse than when I went in? Have you ever felt like that?
No, I haven't. But before I touch on that, I want to like really acknowledge both of y'all because when we're talking about the topic of men,
Mm.
unfortunately in our society, men are told from boys like, you're running like a girl. Oh, please don't cry. That's what
Yeah.
girls do. And so of
Yep.
course,
Or you can see a
boys,
man's tears in the African context. Oh, you cannot show your tears. You're a man. You know you're a man. And
exactly.
you grow up thinking that all tears should go inside. Tears were meant to come outside. Come
Yeah,
outside.
whether
It
you're a
cannot
man
go
or
inside.
not.
It says swallow your tears. How do you swallow? It's coming through here. How do you swallow through the eye? So it always
Exactly.
bothered me. Like
You see, as
the
a
former
boy.
former speaker of the house used to cry. I'm like, let him cry. This dude is an expression of his emotional state. What is wrong
Exactly.
with that? How do you swallow through the eyes? So it's ridiculous. But go
Exactly.
ahead, please.
And
I'm
that's why
sorry.
I just like always like have my heart to just like men, because what happens is these boys that hear these things are told like, hey, man up. It's like, I'm 7, man up. You're going to grow up to be a man that either A, has trouble expressing themselves, you're bottling everything inside, and then at some point it explodes one way or another. So I just want to acknowledge both of y'all, because it's just so beautiful to hear like y'all have y'all man who cry. I love you have no idea. Like, I'm such a big advocate for like men having their like men camaraderie and like men. I love it so. I'm like, oh my gosh, please, yes, please have your boy time, please,
Yeah.
like have your man time, have your boy time, because it's so important. So I just think it's just beautiful to be in a space with both of you where y'all are like doing the work, and you're like, no, I am gonna cry. I am gonna like go to this other brother and be like, bam, let's talk it through. So thank you for doing that, because I know that could be challenging for men, especially how like they're raised as boys. So that's like the
No, we are emotional beings. Period.
exactly.
We were designed that way, and anybody wants to be devoid of that, they've not read the book called what was the name from Antonio Damasio? I'll give you the name in a moment, but he says uh, the fact that historically we've always said, "Oh, there's no emotion." No, that's BS.
Yeah.
We are deeply, deeply, profoundly emotional animals. It's the reason why you jump in onto the train tracks to save another person's child when it's not your child.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not emotion, you cannot live. You cannot make good judgments.
Exactly.
If you've lost your amygdala, you cannot make good judgments. You can still
Right.
calculate, you can still do everything, but you cannot live like
Yeah.
devoid of emotion. So it's important that we're able to acknowledge that even as men, and go out there and try as best as possible to be of service to someone. But I know Ashik might have something to say on
So
that.
I just want to talk about quality of therapy and experiences in that regard.
Yes,
I've been in
please.
this space for 38 years, and for 33 years, I was just a hamster on a wheel that was going through the process. I was not a self advocate. I didn't have the advocacy that I needed. I didn't even know what. There's no
No
rule
work.
book on how to behave in therapy. So you are a victim to what your circumstance is. And what I will tell anybody that will listen is tie into somebody that makes you feel better. Let them know what you're working on. Have your community follow up. How was that therapy today? Are you getting something out of it? Make sure you're articulating what's working and what's not. And now my therapist waits for me to write the narrative of what we're going to talk about, and we're going to, with guidance, they give me the guidance of where the guardrails, but it's my show, it's my deal. We're going to talk about this, and this is what's on my mind, and we're going to work through it. But please, especially if you're taking children or young adults to therapists for the first time, you have to stay connected into what's going on. You have to be their advocate, because they don't know what they don't know. And this is a mystery to us.
Yes.
There almost should be videos on how to work in therapy, because I went to first year, and that therapist, no judgment, this is just factual, I'm not discounting anyone, did not say a word to me for almost the 45-minute session. It was just a furrow of the brow. It was a look, and it wasn't any words. It was my monologue. And I was like, okay, this is how therapy works. That's all I knew. We have to be able to educate and do videos, and all these groups have that.
Yes.
But you have to have your own. Does it feel right? Did that meal feel good? Did that restaurant? Do you want to go back for another meal?
Exactly.
Or go somewhere else. There's plenty of resource. It's like any other community. Find what you like and find what's working for you, and keep challenging yourself to that regard.
Yeah, and that's powerful, because there's Target, there's Walmart, there's Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Why in the world are you always going to the same old, let's say, Costco? Can you try some other place? Because you might end up at Trader Joe's and you may find some other goodies there, or you may get some help from there that helps you feel like, you know what, I'm on my way to recovery. I begin to feel like I felt before. I begin to feel like I can go out there and conquer and not feel subdued, not feel like I'm under a constant wet blanket. Anyway, go ahead, Glenda.
Yeah, no problem. I was going to say how I feel about therapy now is not how I felt before. So I'm going to say how I felt before, just to empower folks. Because I think people know like what I do now. They're like, oh, it's Glenda, of course. She's going to talk about therapy. No. I had my own stigmas about therapy. I told you I was in denial for a good 7+ years before the psychotic breakdown. But after the psychotic breakdown and I was hospitalized, I'm like, girl, you're going to have to find your way to therapy. I don't know what it's going to be like, but you don't have a choice at this point, because it's like, you really do need the help. When I started with my first therapist, I think after, I don't know, several sessions, she straight up tells me, she's like, Glenn, do you want to be here? I'm like, I was like, oh snap, damn, it's obvious. Like, geez. And yeah. She was like, okay, well, it just seems like you don't want to be here. And I was just telling her, like, well, I feel like I need the help. It's just I have all these theories of what therapy is. And so
Mm.
literally I just for once opened up to her. And everything I said, she debunked. She was like, no, no, that's not what it is. Nope, not that. Nope, nope, nope. And ever since then, I was just like open. I was waiting for therapy. I'm like, yes, is it Thursday yet? Yes, time to go to
There you
therapy.
go. There
And
you
so
go.
where I'm at now, I love therapy,
There you
capital
go.
L.
There
Like
you
it's
go.
just, it's, I don't even
Thank
have
you.
the words, but
Thank you.
therapy is what you make it though. That's the thing. I think
Mhm.
sometimes people are trying to be like, I need the best therapist in this city. That's not what you need. You need to be able to, again, we talked about self-advocating, showing up
Yep.
and deciding for yourself. That's number one. And
Ownership.
two,
Ownership.
it's what you make it because sometimes the therapist is a mirror to what you're showing. So if you just
Yes.
show up in therapy like this, they're like, hey, okay, how was your week? It was fine. How's the
Mm.
therapist going to support you? So like,
Exactly.
of course, I've had several therapists over the years, and there's multiple reasons for that. Not bad ones, but sometimes like moving in a different state, I have to switch things like that. But if it's not working and you're doing your best, it's okay to find another one. And then
Mm.
like for me, like what I do, sometimes throughout the week, something comes up. I have a list on my phone, like, oh, I need to talk about this in therapy. So that when therapy comes, sometimes I'm like, oh, let me go on my list. Oh yeah, can we talk about this? And so for me, therapy is so soothing. Once I opened up to it, it's a space for me to be able to just like share my deepest, darkest, sometimes truth and to be able
Mhm.
to get feedback. Everyone's different. Some people just want someone to just listen. But for
Mhm.
me, I know I need feedback from a therapist. So to be able to get that feedback, I've learned so much about myself because of therapy. I've learned coping skills. I've learned ways to
Mm.
manage like things that, and I'm very analytical, things I miss. I'm like, oh, you notice that about me? Because they're starting to like understand the symptoms. Oh, okay, or whatever it is that I'm dealing with. And therapy is not just for individuals with symptoms either. Like it's just for
Okay.
any human being. Like you might just have a
Mm.
life challenge. You might have a manager that's frustrating. You may not have
Mm.
mental health symptoms. So
Yes.
it's supposed to be a safe space where you're able to like really uncover yourself and just
Mhm.
learn to become a better version of yourself. That's how I view it.
Wow. Wow. And based on what you're saying, and the fact that I've seen many, many people, like you mentioned, super Olympic class athletes going through this and bouncing back stronger. I am so delighted because I know that the words that you're sharing, the ideas, the strategies, the tools, the resources that you're giving are going to help someone to bounce back. We're building this bridge through our stories, our experiences, so that some other person can cross through quicker and get to the other side because we need everyone making a contribution.
Mhm.
Now, is there something that you want to speak from the heart that could reach someone who might be in a state of doubt, in a state of denial, in a state of refusal, that you feel like, you know what, I need to speak to this because I've been in that place. I don't know if other people understand, so that it could help someone. And I don't know who that person is. It could be me also. It could be someone in my family. And I'm telling you, I got issues too. But what you're saying here is helping me to be more humble, to be more nimble, and to realize that I can go get the help with my family to get better so that we can serve more people. Do you have something from your heart? Say that now before we wrap this up.
I don't mind going first. I've shared bits and pieces of my story, but my journey has literally been an up and down roller coaster. I mean, having a psychotic breakdown in 2011 was very traumatic actually. I mean, between losing all perception of reality and I didn't even know I was losing perception of reality. I thought it was real. I thought the hallucinations and delusions that I was seeing, feeling and hearing were real. Being
Mm,
hospitalized in a psychiatric unit alone, that's sometimes it's dehumanizing to be
mm,
in that space. Like I've been in very challenging traumatic spaces mentally, whether a physical space or a mental space, and even having the diagnosis of bipolar.
mm,
When I was first diagnosed in the hospital, the way they diagnosed me in the worst way possible, they were like, "Okay, Glenda, we've been observing you, and just wanted to and let me just paint the picture even more. I'm 22 years old, graduated college 6 months old. I'm here thinking like, I'm doing good, and then I end up in this hospital, and they're diagnosing me this way. They're like, okay, you've been observing you and you have a chronic condition.
Hmm.
You have bipolar and it's chronic and it's lifelong. And that's like no emotion. It was kind of like, I was like, oh my gosh, my life's over. I'm only 22. What's happening? But then at some point I realized, nope, I'm not going to go ahead and connect to that. I may have bipolar, but I am not bipolar.
Hmm.
Bipolar is just something that I have. It's not who I am. And the moment that I started realizing that I am bigger than bipolar and I am
Hmm.
more than bipolar, I'm more than this mental health diagnosis. I'm more than the symptoms that I've continued
Yes.
to have
Yes.
in some ways.
Yes.
I'm more than the hospitalizations. I'm more than the psychosis. I'm
Yes.
more than all of that. I made that decision and I continue to make that decision year after year after year to be the best person I am today. Like I'm actually living my best life today than I was before 2011
And look
without
what you're doing. Look at what you're doing. I know
exactly.
you're in high demand. You're speaking at major college campuses, enlightening the world about your journey. Talk a little bit about that because you say you're living your best life today.
Yeah.
You come a long way. You wrote a book. Did you write a book? Letters about myself and something. Okay, that
Letters
talk
to my
about that. How
bipolar
you're living
self.
your best life today because this is the bounce back that we're looking for. This is the coming
Literally,
through that we're looking for. We're
literally.
not just talking about getting
It's a
stuck. It's about getting unstuck. Go ahead.
exactly. It's a bounce back, but I also want to share like I still have challenges at time. Nowhere near what I was dealing with, let's say 2011 or 2017 or those hospitalizations, but I
Yes.
still have symptoms. It's just I'm in a complete different space because I not only went on a mental health journey, I just went on an overall wellness journey. I went on an
Mm.
overall self, capital S self journey, which is why I am the best person today. So in terms of the speaking that I do, I speak very openly and vulnerably about my story. I use my story in creative ways to empower folks, whether you have a mental health condition or not. I use my story to empower folks to tap from their inner being. And I use my story as a way to give people inspiration like, well, if she can go through that and go
Mhm.
ahead and do this now.
Yes.
So, like,
Yes.
I too don't have to let any condition stop
You've
me
written it
from
down.
doing whatever goal it is that I'm doing. And so,
Thank you.
it's so interesting how bipolar has caused me so much hurt and trauma, but it's also saved me. It's
Mm.
also made me a better me.
Mm.
And again, that only happened because I chose to shift the narrative. I
Mm.
chose like, no, chronic condition. Yeah, I have it, but no, I'm still gonna just be the best version of myself. I'm not gonna
Every
stop
single
living at
yes.
22 because you're
Yes.
diagnosed me with a chronic condition. And you
Mm.
all have the power to do that. It really starts from in here and like also from in here. It's a process. I'm not gonna sit here and sell y'all the dream.
Thank
It's a
you. Thank
process,
you.
y'all.
Thank
It
you.
really
Thank
is.
you.
But it's
Thank you.
just also a beautiful process at the end of the day. So
Yes.
just keep moving forward and don't let anyone or anything direct who you are because you're bigger than whatever symptom or diagnosis.
Thank you. That is amazing. I see it's coming straight from the heart. And
Listen,
so, yes,
listen.
absolutely.
That's the only way.
Yes,
That's the
yes.
only
And
way.
later we would like to get the book, the title of the book, so that we can append it to this and let people learn from your experience because it's better to learn from someone who has gone through something than to just learn from it from nobody. Ashik, what's your own straight from the heart to someone who might be watching, listening, or want to share with a family member?
Yeah, no, thank you for that opportunity. And let me just build on my diagnosis. So I was diagnosed, originally it was depression, and then I was diagnosed by a psychiatrist who told me, "Oh, Ashik, I'm bipolar." So she declared her diagnosis to me, and so you're bipolar.
Mhm.
And the fact that she did that, and that toe tagged me for many years, that was the diagnosis, but I never embraced it. And I feel like the way that she explained that to me was just upside down. I mean, it was it was a weird
Yeah.
experience. Now I will say this to you, I own I own my diagnosis now. It's a PTSD deal, not military. I'm working through it all. And to Glenda's point, we are empowered to do what we want to do with this and activate it. I'm looking forward to doing speeches as well, and looking forward to do public speaking on this deal. I've got two people who are looking to help me write my book, so I'm probably a few exits behind you on the highway of success, Glenda. So I might have to take some notes. But to the person who's
I'm here
sitting
whenever.
the person who's sitting in the fetal position today, because that's what I was doing, sitting in the fetal position with nowhere to turn. I'm speaking to you directly. It's going to get better. Don't feel like you're doing this alone. Pick up the phone. You can give Dr. Gideon, you give my phone number out on your follow-ups because I'll take every phone call about this deal.
Yes, sir.
It will get better. I was in the fetal position. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't get out of my own way. And it just has, just again, what I said earlier, don't give up on yourself. You've been given, everyone in this has been given gifts to give to community. We have a nuance that's not being accepted today. It will be. We're going to create this mental health opportunity that it's going to be, second in line behind any other illness and not in the loser lane. So if
Yes.
you're sitting there and you can't get out of your own way, you can't get out of bed, you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, just take it one step at a time. Don't be overwhelmed. I was there. And now we are here recovering and telling our stories, and you will be there too. And whatever it takes to help you, you can have my phone number and pick up the phone, and I'll walk you through it 24/7, 365, because it's that important. We have to be part of the solution. And I have been there. It's hard. No one's saying it's easy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting your feelings. I'm not discounting how you're feeling right now. It might seem hopeless. It's not. Just take it one step at a time and take it 1 hour at a time, and just know that you're your best friend, and you just have to get to know that.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much. I know we could go with this forever, but we also have to respect time. We have to honor time. You have other engagements. So I just want to do quick question, quick answer from you. What is your best book, or what is one book that you fall on if life is throwing a curveball at you and things are not going too well? Ashik, what's your best book that you turn to and comfort yourself? Or
So I do a lot of positive, motivational listening and reading and speaking. I do a lot. I listen to three different speakers every day. I listen to people like Jim Valvano and Ed Milet and Brian Tracy, and I'll share you what every morning. It's a podcast, and it's one a day for 3 times a day. And from the book perspective, it's more around how to influence. Dale Carnegie. I've got Nathaniel Napoleon Hill about how to be better people.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
all about betterment in my library, about books and videos and audios that they feed my soul. And so I'm
Yes.
just, it's what you put into your soul that you get to pay off. The Bible for me is a big structure for me to understand what's going on and how to help myself. So
Yes.
yeah, I have a litany of books that I use, and I have videos and podcasts every day to motivate me and start that dopamine cortisol race in a good way every morning.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
Yes, Bible, check, check. Napoleon Hill, check, check. Power of positive thinking, check, check. Those ones, Ed Milet, I'm still just getting into him. I just met him at a conference in Las Vegas recently, but I need to
Oh.
go deeper and deeper into his stuff because everybody told me that he's like head and shoulder above the rest. So I'll look into that. But powerful insights, Ashik. Which book or which podcast should we look for that you are big on, Glenda?
So for me, it's not one specific book per se. I also read a lot of like self-empowerment, motivation books. I get excited. It depends on what season I'm on. So let's say, so right now I'm reading Atomic Habits. And so that's because I'm in a
Right.
season
I've
of,
heard
okay,
about that too.
I need to
I've read
revamp.
some part of it. Yeah.
Right. I need to revamp some of my habits. I need to shift some of my habits. So right now it's that. I feel like you talk to me 6 months from now, it'll probably be another book.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
what I am liking about Atomic Habits is so far is it's so interesting when you read a book that conceptualizes something you've already been doing.
Yep.
And there's a lot I know. I'm only in the beginning part of Atomic Habits, but there was one part that really stood out to me because in the book, they talk about how in order for you to create new habits, you have to shift your identity. So, for example, for me, I want to work at being more of a morning person and wake up earlier. So, what does that mean? That means that I have to shift my identity. Instead of me being like, I'm a night owl, I can't do mornings, just be like, nope, I'm a morning person. I thrive in the morning, right? And the reason why that's important, because if you heard me earlier, I was saying I am not bipolar. I have bipolar. So I'm like, wow, I in a sense,
Shift.
subconsciously shifted the identity, which is why I was
Yes.
able to cultivate some habits related to
Yeah.
mental health, because I no longer identified with I'm bipolar.
Mm.
The second thing, I just want to put that shameless plug, like I said about my book, Letters to My
Please
Bipolar.
go for it. Go for it. I welcome that. I welcome that.
Yeah, because I feel like this conversation, one theme was like this aspect of self, building
Mm.
that relationship with self. And my book is a series of love and letters that I wrote to myself. And the way I wrote them, whenever the reader reads them, it's almost as if someone wrote it to them, or I wrote the letter to them. And
Mm.
these letters are very raw. So if anyone's looking to be able to like get that inspiration, build that relationship with yourself, my book gives you an example of that, and also gives you that boost. Like there are
Mm.
times where I don't do it as often, but I'll like remember a letter and be like, let me read a letter again. So that's also empowering as well.
Wow. And what's the title of the book? Say that very slowly so that someone can take note.
Yeah, Letters to My Bipolar Self.
Thank you so much. It published this when was that? This year, last year?
No, I published it in 2020.
Okay, 2020. So it's been out for a while, but we can get it on Amazon.
You can get it on Amazon. Yes.
All right. My last question is, if you had to write a new chapter, what would that chapter be? And it's a wishful chapter, not only to yourself, but also to someone who might be going through something similar to what you've gone through. What would be the title of that chapter, Ashik?
So for me, everything started when I learned to love myself. There were times where the boys in the family were eating dinner at the dinner table I'm right now, and about 20 yards to the right is where my office sat, and I would sit in that office and read scripture and read to get myself empowered. And it was a process of learning how to love myself. So once that happens, and once you have that in you, you can then love others, and you can also identify where do you want to improve and where do you want to make yourself a better person. I would
Wow.
say the chapter I would write is love myself. How,
Oh, thank
Oh
and
my
you.
gosh.
Thank you. Dare to love yourself or dare to love myself. Thank you
yeah,
so much, Ashik.
yeah.
And what would be the title of that book you want to write? That chapter you want to
That
write for
chapter.
yourself and for
Oh my
your well
gosh.
wishers?
You're asking this question at such a perfect time, and it's no joke, because I'm starting that chapter right now.
There you
And
go.
so the title would be I Choose Me.
Oh,
I
Mhm.
look at
choose
that.
me. And I'm
Look
because
at
I'm
that.
literally going into a beautiful shift. I'm starting a new position, and then I'm also getting my master's in counseling. So I'm going to start my master's in a couple of weeks. Well, not even a couple of weeks, next week actually.
No kidding. No
So this
kidding.
is really, yeah, this literally, I was literally just telling my life coach right before our session, our talk, like
Yeah.
this is a whole new
New
chapter for me
chapter.
now. So
Hmm.
I choose me.
I am so fortunate. I am so privileged. I'm so honored that both of you
Yeah.
agreed to join me today on this process of sharing love, empathy, empowerment through the form of stories and going deep into your own personal journey. And you were vulnerable, you were present, you were so filled with joy and with inspiration, and you did not want to hold back. I'm very grateful to that because without you, I would not have this platform, and without you, someone out there will not benefit from this. And I do this because the first round we did this, somebody said, "Man, you need to do more of this." I
Wow.
was talking to one person in California, and this highly placed gentleman working somewhere in Houston said, "You need to do more of this." I said, "Thank goodness the world put me in a circle where I'm meeting amazing people and I was able to bring you in today. I'm forever grateful for this. And I hope someday we may do a rejoinder, maybe with a psychiatrist or maybe with other people. But I want to just thank you for your time and for your wisdom. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Gideon,
Thank
for
you.
having me. And thanks for bringing us all together. This was such a beautiful conversation. And oh my gosh, I don't even have the words, to be honest. So
Yes.
thank you to both of you for just sharing space with me. Honestly, this was definitely a beautiful experience.
Yeah,
Thank you
likewise.
so
I
much.
think this has been so empowering. I feel so sort of motivated to continue the
Yes,
message. And thank you for that platform. And Glenda, it's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm
it
honored
was
to have
beyond
you.
a pleasure. Yes.
Thank you
Gideon,
for
I must say
everything.
you did good with the like matching because I kind of just went in blindly. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, Gideon. Sure. Oh, you have another person, great. And like because that's just how I move. I just go with the flow. I trust Gideon. I'm like, oh yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
and
Thank
it
you.
was
Thank you.
Thank you.
such a great,
Thanks for trusting, and even for Ashik too. We could have done it individually, but
yeah,
something just told me if we do it as a group, it'll be
yeah,
Oh,
much better. And I'm glad
without
that
a
we
right.
doubt.
did as a group.
Me too. I'm
And
glad
we
too.
we can always come back to this, and you can
Yes,
always tell me we can invite other people. But
yeah.
I'm very grateful that you were both available and you brought in the goods. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
your service. Thank you for the
Thank
goods.
Thank you.
Have a good day, and we will meet back in person and keep serving and keep sharing. Thank you so much.
Love it.
Yes,
Thank you.
awesome. Thanks,
Peace.
y'all. Bye.
Okay. Peace.